Hello, and thank you for joining us as we create this fantastic snowflake Christmas stocking. First thing that we're going to need to get started is a hoop size piece of fabric. Now mine that I'm using is 30 centimeters wide and 480 centimeters tall. And we're going to have the same size piece of embroiderer's felt. So if you come through and you lay that on over your hoop with stabilizer on it and stitch colorway 1, that will hold down the fabric to the stabilizer. Colorway 2 is going to come through and start doing all of the beautiful quilting. Now the quilting that we're using in this design is a bubble style quilting, and I've done it to emulate or what I was going for was Christmas baubles. Now I'm stitching mine in white, but you could choose to stitch this in whatever fabric, in whatever color thread you wanted to, and doing it in silver could look really beautiful as well. So one of the amazing things about these designs is that they are done very specifically for the larger hoops. So these designs come in 3 sizes, 10 by 14 inches, 10 by 16 inches, and 11 by 18 inches. The one that I'm doing here is the 11 by 18 inches. And what you'll notice is that the quilting covers the entire stocking. And we're doing that because the snowflakes themselves are ever so slightly lacy and see-through, and I really just want all of that quilting beneath it. Now, when you are coming to look at what colours to choose, you can choose whatever colours work for your own style. I am choosing to work mine very much in white, silver, gold and blue. And I'm going, I guess, for a very traditional style, although when my daughter saw this, the first thing that she said was Frozen. So we shall see. Okay, so now that that quilting is finished, let's come through and load up the metallic gold, and I'm using Kingstar metallic thread today. The reason I'm using that is just because I think Kingstar has the best brand of metallic thread out there. Now I am still using my thread serum to make sure that I get the best possible result with metallic thread. And I think over the entire project that we're doing here, I've had maybe 3 breaks in thread. One of those is very much because I was right at the end of my thread and it got knotted up. Other than that, the Kingstar is working beautifully, and you can see just what a beautiful pop of color it gives. So speed-wise, I'm going at 500 stitches per minute. The reason that I go at such a slow stitch when I am doing, when I'm working with metallic thread, is because we want there to be as fewer thread breaks as possible, and slowing down the speed is a great way of doing that. Okay, so we've got our gold thread here, and we've got 3 snowflakes that we're going to stitch in the gold. So here is snowflake 1 nearly finished, and then we're going to come through and start on our second snowflake. So as I was saying earlier, these designs are very deliberately made for the larger hoops. What we've done is we've gone through and looked at the different brands of machine and what their largest hoop is. And we've created it for those hoops. And that's because what we found is a lot of people have purchased these new machines, and then they're not sure what to do with the massive hoops, or they're just not getting the use out of it. And to be perfectly honest, I was exactly the same. So I am loving that I am using my 11 by 18 inch hoop here and having so much fun doing so. I don't recommend changing the size of the designs. There is no warrant over the design if you go through and edit them. I have heard every single excuse of, don't worry, I've got software. Don't worry, my machine allows me to do that. What it does do, and to a degree, you're absolutely right, you do. But as soon as I change those designs from being part of a working file to being a stitch file, you do not get the same amount of flexibility, and there is a much greater chance of something stuffing up. So I do ask, please do not go through and change the size of the design. Okay, and particularly on the smaller snowflakes, like these big ones, if you shrunk those down a little bit, it's not going to be a massive deal. But on the smaller ones, what you're going to end up doing is having a really large mess come to pass. Okay, and now we're coming up to being on to our third snowflake here. So we're going to come through, and this one is on the toe. And how gorgeous is this all stitching out? Now, the other question that I get with these designs is, can you place the mylar beneath the quilting? It's not going to work. The quilting is too open weave to have that show up well. And the only place you could really place it underneath each snowflake is right in those centerpieces. So it's not going to be enough to have it be or have a positive impact. Now, one of the things that I could really see working well with this design would be to have to do an entire family of these beautiful snowflakes, but color coordinate them so that everybody in the families is different, and that would make a really elegant addition to your Christmas stitching. So now that our stitching is complete, we can move on to the next part. And the next part that we are going to move on to is doing the topper. Now, you do not have to put a topper on your project. But if you want to put a topper, and the topper is great, A, for making the project larger, and B, so that you can do a custom name piece on it. So select which topper you'd like to use, and then I'm going to go in with my so I'm using my metallic thread here, but I'm going to use the inbuilt stitches on my machine and add a name to this. So I'm going to thread up the same blue as I used for my snowflakes and stitch out my daughter's name, Grace, on this. Now, the multicolored blue that I am using here is not a King Star thread. It is a thread that, you know, those ones that have been in your stash for a long time and you want to use them up. And that's exactly what I am doing here. And that's why I've got one or two more breaks than I would normally like to have. So we'll stitch out our nameplate, and now we can get onto constructing our stocking. So what I want to do is take our bottom piece and our top piece, and I'm going to mark up my center points on both of these, and then using my quilt clips, come through and clip those sections together. Now I've trimmed those to approximately 1/4 inch, but I'm also lining up the seams. So whatever form of stitching this works best for you is absolutely fine. The other thing that I like to do is if I'm worried about getting my stitching right, stitch it with wash away thread. So I've got regular construction thread on here, and I'm just going to come and thread my needle, and then I'm going to stitch along. Now you see that we are stitching a curved seam, and stitch just on the inside of where the stitching on the embroidered piece ends, and that means you won't have any extra lines showing on your project. And just come through, and it is one of those slow and steady wins the race. Now the top panel is a little bit oversized. That just gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Once you've got that piece ready, come through and press it nicely. Now I'm going to use a piece of fabric that I had in my stash, and it's these beautiful owls as my backing piece. You can see I've drawn a line here so that my topper and the stocking itself have a meet up point here that I want to stitch along. And again, we're just looking at stitching on the inside of this line. Now, this is one of those times, I'm normally a bit of a speed demon, but this is one of those times that I do like to go slow, simply because, and I turn the speed of the machine down so that I don't have to worry about what my presser foot is doing speed-wise. The other thing that I like to do is have the presser foot lift when I'm not stitching so that I can easily curve the fabric around. And we're just going to come through and finish off. So stitch all the way up to the top of our stocking. Okay, so then to complete the stocking, all you're going to do is create a binding, and I used a 2.5 inch binding, and run that around the top of the stocking. You can also add things like decorative ribbons if you want, and you can come in and do things like adding paint details as well. And here you can see our finished stocking. I'm loving how that looks, and I think you can see what I mean about changing those colours for everybody in the family. So somebody else in the family might have reds and greens, somebody else might have pinks, and you could really customize these, and they're going to make beautiful family heirlooms that then get passed down time after time. So, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this project and that you'll consider going and creating your own beautiful Christmas stocking. All of the details on where you can find the designs and the thread are all in the notes on this video. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.